right, sometimes when you want to understand what's going on in the world today, you have to take a look back at the events of the past. Well, we're doing that. There's a new book out about our 32nd president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that talks about an alleged massive cover-up during his time in office. The book is called FDR's Deadly Secret. Co-authors Eric Fettman and Dr. Stephen LeMahieu are here now. Guys, welcome to the program. What was FDR's deadly secret, Dr. LeMahieu?
FDR's deadly secret was a melanoma, a malignant skin tumor, which in all probability metastasized to his brain and his bowels and made him extremely ill in 1944.
And did he or his doctors ever reveal anything to the public about the nature and extent of this illness?
Absolutely not. That's why we call it his deadly secret.
Is there physical evidence of the melanoma? If we were to look at pictures of FDR at different portions in his presidency, might we see this mark on his face?
Yes, you might, and I wrote a paper with probably the world's leading dermatopathologist, which shows that problem.
What are we looking at now on the screen? That's his left eye, but when?
Well, the last image you saw was in August of 1940.
Right.
This is a later picture, probably around 1942 or 1943.
Surgically adjusted?
Well, we have no evidence of that, but there's absolutely no other medical explanation.
What are we looking at now? When is that?
That's August 1940. You can see a scar in the lower eye, on the bottom of his eyebrow. You can see a...
What is that mark above the eyebrow? I mean, it looks like it's a little charcoal or dust, but what is that?
That is what any dermatologist today would recognize as having a highly malignant potential, most probably melanoma.
Why didn't the press notice things like this in the 40s?
Well, when they did, they just dismissed it as one of Roosevelt's physical characteristics. They would just refer to the brown blob above his eyebrow.
But were guys, and I guess they were 99% guys at the time, in the press, the type to say, let me find a Dr. LeMahieu. Let me show him this picture of the president. Maybe he could tell me that this thing is more than a little ink smudge. That type of curiosity, of search for the truth, was not prevalent in the White House press corps when FDR was in the White House.
No, it was a different time. I mean, first of all, you had a press corps that was overwhelmingly pro-Roosevelt. The people who did investigate rumors about Roosevelt's health tended to be members of the anti-Roosevelt press corps, Republican, isolationist, conservative papers. And when they wrote things, it generally got ignored by the rest of the press.
A life of deception, right?
Absolutely.
A mistress and the first lady. The mistress is with him at the time he dies, not the first lady. People complicit in the lying, doctors and people around him. How did he get away with it?
He was the most powerful man on the face of the earth. He began in 1921 by trying to make sure that the public would not elect a crippled president, so he did everything he can to perpetuate the image that he wasn't crippled.
Is deception contagious? When you get away with it, do you do it more?
Well, he got away with it in spades. He was elected president of the United States in a wheelchair.
Dynamite book about truth in American history. Dr. LeMahieu, Eric Fettman, thanks very much. How big is the government messing up the economy and affecting your security? Next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Uma Kamaraju. Here's what's happening. The man accused of blowing up a U.S. jet on Christmas Day says he's not guilty. Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib entered his plea at his arraignment in Detroit today and told a judge he understood the charges against him. A sad day for the Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden lost his mother today. Jean Biden died in Delaware surrounded by her family. She was 92. And today, a king would have been 75. Fans of Elvis Presley, the King, gathering at Graceland today and around the world to celebrate the late singer's birthday. Presley died in 1977 at the young age of 42. The Glenn Beck program returns in just a moment, but first, Brett Baer has a preview of what's on Special Report. Brett?
Hey, Uma, coming up, the administration still tries to explain why it did not know al-Qaeda in Yemen was a real and serious threat, plus jobs numbers and how both sides of the aisle are reading them. Join me at the top of the hour for Special Report.
Oh, what a week we have all just endured. While the Democrats were rewriting the federal takeover of health care behind closed doors, The public face of the federal government was fixated on denying and then explaining all the gaps in its intelligence gathering. The Obama administration has been finger-pointing over who in the government let a murderous thug on a plane in Amsterdam that he tried to explode over Detroit. First, the government said that the system worked. Then the president said that it didn't. Then he announced that the intelligence communities and security people would start to talk to each other so the bad guys could be kept out. Weren't they supposed to be doing this all along? At Newark Liberty Airport last Sunday, a TSA agent left his post, and a young man walked past it in order to kiss his girlfriend goodbye. The young man then turned around and left the secured area and left the airport. So far, no harm, no foul. But because the government's surveillance cameras in the airport didn't work, the feds panicked and ordered 10,000 passengers to leave the terminal to go out into the 15-degree Newark, New Jersey cold evening and then re-enter the airport. Flights were delayed and missed, kids did not get to school on Monday morning, and soldiers were listed as AWOL. All because the government overreacted to a kiss. This humiliated the feds. New Jersey's 86-year-old senior Senator Frank Lautenberg demanded that the guy who kissed his gal be hunted down and prosecuted because of the chaos he caused. He caused? Let's see. The government has cameras that watch us every time we scratch our noses. And when those cameras don't work, the government blames the person whose picture it was supposed to be taking? Come on. All this, of course, brings out the false argument of liberty versus security. And we hear it from the progressives that the government must take our freedoms in order to keep us safe. That's hogwash. Freedom is our birthright. It doesn't come from the government. It is part of our humanity. America is the only country in the history of the world dedicated to the truism that we are endowed by our Creator, as Jefferson wrote, with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The government has forgotten basic civics. Endowed by our Creator means that our rights come from God, not from the feds. Inalienable means that we and our freedoms cannot be separated unless we are convicted by a jury of violating someone else's rights. What is the value of being safe if we are not free? Did our forefathers free the kings and despots of Europe in order to come here and be safe? Did Patrick Henry say, "Give me safety or give me death"? Here is the mistake that the big government progressive crowd wants to thrust upon us. They want us to balance liberty and safety. There is no such thing as balance when it comes to freedom. We will not trade freedom for anything or balance it against anything. And we certainly won't give it up to the TSA. Can the government keep us safe? I don't think so. I think airline travel is safer today because pilots have guns, because cockpit doors are now like bank vaults, and because the passengers have become courageous. All this was done by individuals in the private sector and not by the government. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If the feds had not stripped us of our natural rights to keep ourselves safe by keeping and bearing arms, 9/11 would never have happened. How about letting the airlines decide who gets on their plane rather than a TSA worker who leaves his post? When industry competes for your business, you fly where you want to go to. You get there in comfort and safety. And you do all of this at a competitive cost. When the government runs the show, you stand in the cold night for 6 hours because of a kiss. The government can't deliver the mail. It can't operate security cameras at an airport. It can't pay back its debts. It can't tell the truth. That would be the same government that now wants to manage your health care. For more of a look at how the government is intruding into the private sector, let's bring in today's Economic Roundtable. My good friend Stuart Varney, a Fox Business Network anchor. Nick Gillespie is the editor-in-chief of Reason TV and Reason.com, and Harry Binswanger, an associate with the Ayn Rand Institute. Can the airlines keep us safer than the government does, Stuart?
You lawyers are part of the problem.
I should have known this was
With respect, lawyers are. What I would like to see at airports is the privatization of the security system. Got it. Okay. I'd like to see security agents be in a position to operate discretion, to make subjective decisions about out who gets on the plane and who doesn't. In America, you can't do that because of lawyers. You would have a lawsuit immediately. They stand in the way of our freedom.
Nick Gillespie, can the private sector keep us safer than the government can? I realize this has been a bad week for the government. The type of thing that happened over Detroit and the nonsense that happened in Newark doesn't happen every week.